49. The last president inaugurated in the United States. The span of terrible days after the global comms blackout when the world was reshaped. The number of strange supernatural phenomena that appear around the globe. You're listening to The 49, the new series by Andrew Kooman. Get the content right in your inbox when you subscribe at the49.substack.com. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Welcome to the world of The 49.
His body was attached to a long cable that slowly pulled him out of the dark pit of unconsciousness. His entire body dangled, subject to gravity's irrefutable law. He was a rag doll. Even if he tried to move his limbs, raise a hand, or the stitch of his mouth, nothing would come of it. He smelled the fire first. Cedar branches, hot sap, mingled with smoke and ash. The rope that pulled him became the curl of smoke, the thin line connecting earth and sky. He opened his eyes. It was dark. The flames of the fire in front of him overwhelmed his visual field. He blinked at the smoke and light. One face stared back at him, familiar. The man didn't move. He looked at Diez, stoic and unflinching, like a portrait in an oil painting. The dark of the night, the forest around them, the fire flattened the space between them, so that he looked like a two-dimensional portrait. The man wore a toque, pulled down but not so far as to cover his ears in the cool of the night. An animal fur draped his shoulders. It was as if a self-portrait of Rembrandt himself stared back at Diez. The shadows from the firelight danced across his face, expanding under the shallow ovals of his eye sockets. He burned with self-confidence, even defiance. The general, in the flesh, a man of renown, even legend, infamous and hunted. And on the hunt himself, how did you mimic it? Diez asked. The general squinted as a waft of smoke turned towards him, but he otherwise didn't move. He waited for the plume to shift before he answered. It was a happy accident, he said. Diez couldn't tell if it was middle of the night or early evening, could only guess how long the man had sat and watched him, waiting for him to wake. The general sat on a flat rock. Diez noticed the way he sat, unmoving, his body set into the landscape, resting but at attention. He was patient, unhurried. Before I was a priest, I had the chance to see Foz in a few different locations. There are telltale signs, a feeling that comes over the body. Oftentimes like a wind that hovers over the skin, a few inches from the surface. I felt it through my clothing. Sometimes, and this is how I usually feel it, it's like menthol has been rubbed all over my skin. Usually my hands or feet. It burns, but it also feels cool, like I've been skating for a while in the cold. That painful, good feeling when you take off the skates. I know it. The Foz? Skating in the cold. Ah, Diez said. But not the glory? The general smiled. It was almost imperceptible, but it was more than the shifting patterns of shadow and firelight. Diez tried to sit up and for a moment was disoriented. Am I bound? His hands were pressed against his sides. His feet were close together. He realized that he was in a sleeping bag, his back propped against a log, slightly reclined. You get lost in the wild. You want that sack, the general said. Saved my life more than once. Even out here on the island, you'd need it. That wet cold is worse than an Alberta winter. It sure is toasty in here, Diez said. In less than 48 hours, he'd found himself in private conversations with the two most sought-after forces in the Western Hemisphere, perhaps in the reshaped world. One ate a bowl of cereal in his kitchen. What now? S'mores around a campfire. The morphine must be wearing off. Diez felt lucid and giggly. He wanted to touch the governor's face, see if it was real or if it was Rembrandt's face. The fog in his mind, the weightlessness of his body was not the sensation he expected to find out here. It made the surprise of the deception more complete. You lured me. Yes, not an accident. No, it wasn't. But we didn't lure you, specifically. You must have known the governor would send someone, an envoy, never himself. We're still dreamers. It was a narrow possibility, but we didn't rule it out. Do you think he knew? Diez asked. He had to be careful, but the drugs automatically put his guard down. Would the general know that? Would the gov? Was paranoia a side effect of battlefield morphine? Part of him knew, the general said. But he's a dreamer too. He needs the fause to be real. He knows it is. The general laughed at this. The short chuff of a tiger, a predator who didn't get surprised. But he saw that Diez was earnest. He cocked his head, inviting explanation. I was there, once, when he experienced it. It, too, was an accident. I was visiting the bishop, the real one, the one who gave me this. Diez put his hand and over the spot where the crucifix was buried beneath the sleeping bag and the clothes they dressed him in, beneath it. The governor came with his mother, who was very sick, so sick that there was nothing to be done. Not by doctors, anywhere. But she got better when she came to Mesquasi's. When was this? The general asked. A few of us saw it. When? The general seemed agitated. Before. Diez searched his mind, but the fog of the drugs, his fatigue, shielded the memory. It was hidden as if behind a cloud. He could reach his hand into it, but there was nothing but vapors to grasp. He meant to say, before the fause was known, before it was really believed or discussed, certainly before the blackout. You think he thinks that it's real? I don't think so. I know so. It's why he came to me. He knows I know it's real too. You, a priest, are friends with this man? Diez closed his eyes. It was more complicated than he could explain, especially right now. Not friends? No. But not enemies either. A useful idiot. Bird sounds, insects in the forest, filled the silence for a few moments as Diez thought over the words. I can see how you'd think that, Diez said. I've asked myself that more than you can know. He wasn't offended or afraid as he said it. He could see that the general understood that too, even as he squinted at him through the smoke, through tired eyes, through pain. I admit that I'm a pawn, but not in the governor's hands, and ultimately, not in yours, no matter what you intend with me. I'm a pawn in God's plan. That's perhaps the one thing I know for certain now, after all that has taken place behind the walls and outside of them. The general pondered this. He picked up a stick that was at his feet and poked it into the fire. Our advantage, if we have any, is disregard, he said, after another silence. The wall thinks we're inbred in backwater and can't remember that we once shared a civilization. Can't imagine we have access to the archive. A modern-day Library of Alexandria, you mean? Diez asked. You could say that. There was no fire that burned our knowledge base to the ground. Just a firewall to keep anyone outside the corridor from accessing it. But you found a way in, Diez posited. Of course. Some of the best minds in the world came to us. The general looked almost sheepish as he saw Diez's reaction. The best in tech. Science. Don't look so surprised, Father. Forgive me. I pride myself on recognizing and discerning the propaganda. Clearly, I have blinders. That's another advantage. You're not so young to forget the first lockdowns, are you? No. One of the lies that was so effective the propagandists believed it themselves was that everyone of reason and ability was on their side. All the science, all the tech, all the money. There was a vast network of resistance. I remember, Diez said. His head throbbed. So you accidentally created a fake FOSS? You and your hidden scientists? We were trying to find ways to take out surveillance. That's when we accidentally created conditions that blocked detection of the walls, satellites, and drone surveillance in a limited geographical area. Another voice entered the circle. A man's voice. Diez heard it before he saw the man step into the firelight. His heart stopped when he heard its familiar tone. And that's how he made them think it was Foz. Before he passed out, overwhelmed by the shock and the drugs and his fatigue, Diez managed to say, "My father." To his disbelief, the Bishop of Mesquasi's stood before him in the shadows, the firelight dancing off his face.
Thanks for listening to this portion of The 49 by Andrew Kooman. New content drops for paid subscribers every Monday at the49.substack.com. That's the49.substack.com. On Tuesdays, we release new audio on all your favorite podcast platforms. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you subscribe and to share it with a friend. Thanks for listening to The 49.